Greetings, friends. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a brand new episode of 50 Years in the Dungeon, the show I do to celebrate the fact that our lovely hobby of tabletop role-playing games is half a century old and then some. 50 years in the dungeons. That's what I've been doing. Dungeons and space stations and superhero headquarters. I've been playing games for most of the past 50 years, and I celebrate it with the show. Sometimes I'm interviewing people. In fact, a lot of times I'm interviewing people who have worked in the industry. Sometimes it's just me hanging out. In fact, when I'm doing either of those, though, I'm doing some drawing. Sometimes, I don't know why I'm saying sometimes a lot. When I'm doing interviews with folks, I will be drawing I will begin drawing a cartoon homage to a classic piece of gaming art, often something that either has to do with what they've worked on or something that is they find one of their favorite pieces of art. Sometimes just something that I like. Of course, I've taken some suggestions from you fine viewers also, and I begin the drawings during those interviews, and then I will finish them afterwards. And if you are a member of our free newsletter, see, I'm getting to promote the newsletter early this time. Free newsletter at 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. Well, then you are the people who get to see it first, and you get to see full versions of the sketches while I'm working on them, all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff. It's a great way to keep in touch with the show and to, know what's coming up, and to share with friends. But I don't do everything on the show. Sometimes do the finishing of the drawings. Well, not sometimes. I usually do the finishings of the drawings off on my own time. But I've been really busy. So I haven't kept up on all of them. So occasionally, instead of doing interview shows, I do shows like the one we're doing today, where I will be working on a work in progress, a drawing that I began during an interview show, and I'm going to do some more work on it here, hopefully get it closer to being finished so I can share it with you and the world. That's what's going on today. I'm going to be working on a drawing that I did a month or two ago. I'm thinking about it. No, it's in late December, I did this sketch. And I'm going to be picking it up and continuing it, doing the line drawing based on the sketch. And then maybe a little bit of coloring. We'll see. We'll see how far we go. Let me stop here and say hello to Michael and David, who are in chat right now. Hi, gents. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. Always gives me a smile on a Wednesday night to see your faces in the chat room. Anyone else who's watching live, hi to you too. If you're watching on replay, well, I mean hi to you, but, we can't really talk directly because replay, So, I don't think I really have any other big news to talk about. I will tell you that this week I'm doing this work in progress video. Next week I'm going to do something a little different also. A few weeks ago, I had a roundtable discussion talking about the life and career of Gene Raby, who passed away in January. And my intention had been to do a drawing like I usually do while that conversation was going on. But we were having not a few little technical difficulties, and I eased the stress on my computer for me to turn off my iPad. So I didn't do any of the drawing then. So next week, I'm going to start doing the drawing that I intended to do during that. So it'll also be an in the studio episode. I won't be doing a live interview, but I'll be doing drawing. I'll be picking up and working on that drawing, the sketch version of it. Just a little hint of what's coming up for you guys. Ready to get into drawing? Oh, I will keep an eye on the chat while I do this. I'll babble to myself, even without someone to interview. I'll kind of interview myself. But if you guys put questions in the chat, I'll try and keep an eye on that and answer any questions you have. I give drawing tips. I talk about what I'm thinking about or how I'm doing the drawing technique-wise. And I also talk about the things that the drawing represents to me. Uh, um, in this case, you know what? Let me just grab my iPad here and move on. That's another hint for me to say to you. I do all my drawing here on an iPad Pro with the app Procreate and an Apple Pencil. Also to say that they are not sponsors. There are no sponsors on the show currently or ever yet. Although I remain very open to taking some sponsorship from people and products I believe in. Wouldn't mind making a little money on the show, I'll tell you. But I do it now out of the joy and goodness in my heart. Who did I do the interview for this drawing with? I think that this was Ron. What? Ron Meisker, the guy who is in charge of the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. Yes, I'm looking back. Yep, that's who it was. I was talking to Ron when I did this one. So there you go, Michael. And I'm going to open this up here and then switch over the view so you can see it also. And this is the drawing. It is from this painting by Daniel Horne, which was the cover illustration for Dragon Magazine number 1. Was it 126 or 136? I think it's 126. And a beautiful, beautiful drawing. I love Daniel's stuff. He's been a great fantasy artist for years. Yes, Michael, it is ironic that it was the page-related show, and neither you nor I remembered that exactly. Oh, Steve Sullivan is here, who was on that Gene Raby show that I was talking about a little earlier. Since we're about to start dinner, but I thought drop in and wish me luck. I will hope I don't break a finger, but I often, when I talk to people about that, I have a friend who does stand-up comedy, and when he's going to do a show, I tell him to break a metaphorical funny bone. Oh, break a metaphorical drawing instrument. Thank you, Steve. Thank you again also for being part of that Gene tribute a few weeks ago. Yeah, so I guess as you can see, the drawing process so far, while I was talking to Ron on that episode, it starts with this was a quick sketch. Let me raise. This was the first quick sketch I did while we were talking, and then what I did from there was I dropped the opacity on that, so it gets very light, and then I drew a more finished pencil sketch, which is this. And that's what I'm going to be using now. I'm going to go back in with my brush on a new layer, and I'm going to do what, in traditional drawing, I would be, this blue thing would be pencil, and I'd be going in with ink. As it is, it's just a different layer with a new set of drawings. I'm going to do the finished lines for this, and then we'll add color afterwards. Have a good dinner, Steve. Thank you for dropping in, and hope everything's delicious. I'll talk to you soon. All right, so let's go in. Yeah, see, Daniel does such great. I just look at this character's face and just the kind of shape and texture that he gets into his characters is just so um, so appealing to me. Anyway, yeah, I've been very busy recently with um, with a writing project. I know I've brought this up a couple of times in previous episodes. I can't say much about it because of the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement with the person slash company I'm working for. Um, so I can't say much about it, but it is keeping me busy and not giving me a ton of time for uh, doing the follow up drawings on these. This happened to me last year. Also, I don't think it's going to be quite as interfering as it was last year, where I got 6 months behind in uh, doing the finished drawings. I'm working to make sure that doesn't happen again, but that means that I'm going a little slower. Do I know what medium the original was done in? I don't know, but my guess would be acrylic. I don't know for sure what he works in, but it certainly looks like acrylic to me. That said, I'm mostly a pen and ink and digital guy, so exactly what I know about acrylic is not a lot. But certainly, it's a painting that he was doing. So whether I find it really could be gouache. I don't think so. I don't think it's oil. In fact, it could be an oil, but I don't think so. It's much too smooth and blended. Hmm. I'm already not liking that because of the tangents. When I say tangents, you see when I drew these lines before, the lines of the fletching on the arrow. I drew them so that they came down and touched the helmet there, and that created this weird, or it created a difficulty of being able to see the fact that the arrow is supposed to be a little forward because, let me switch colors here for a second, because the shape uh, of the helmet and the shape of the shaft of the arrow and the shape of the fletching were all meeting up at this point, these 2 points, which made the all flatten out. So I raised up the angle on the fletching so that these lines aren't meeting up in the same space and creating that confusion. Doop, 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 doop. Yeah, I haven't. The last few weeks, since the end of February, I really haven't had a lot of time to do drawing. And I know that's always a bad sign for me. And drawing is such an important part of my life. Whenever I go long periods of time where I can't work in the work into my schedule time to do drawing, things just kind of get a little haywire for me. So, one of the good things about this show is, and also my Thursday night show, is I've now put time on my schedule where I will be doing some drawing. So it is very rare these days that I go through periods of time without doing any kinds of drawing, because this is part of my weekly routine. But I haven't had a lot of time beyond the live streaming hours, and so these paintings, these cartoon homages that I begin here, I have not been getting completed. And while my sanity hasn't suffered all that much, I really do want to finish these. I very much enjoy when they're done and I'm able to share them. And then being able to look back at them afterwards. It's kind of, I guess in a way, it's my way of having the same kinds of feelings that you folks who like this, get from having the newsletter that I was talking about earlier. Right, you get to look at the thing and have it around and just kind of enjoy it on your own time. Spend as much time or look as closely at the thing that interests you most. I guess one thing to tell you folks about is that I was just there's a magazine, a free magazine in the Seattle area. Um, what's the name of it? I've got to look it up. I got interviewed by a writer who was doing an article for this magazine called Public Display Art, and it's a Seattle-based art magazine. I don't know where it's. I know that it's physically published and that it's free, but I don't know where one would get a copy, which is a shame because I really want to get a copy of this issue where I am one of the people interviewed on the subject of fan art. Um, and this work that I do here for this show is used as a case in point, and my opinion was sought. It's a fun article, and Ryan Dancy is also quoted in it. Not an artist, but someone who was very involved in the creating the rules for how and what fans can do with D&D materials. He was involved in creating the open game license and the general set of rules that the gaming industry has followed since then. So he was. I can see why the author wanted to talk to him too. And then some other artists that do more comics and movie related fan art. Anyway, it's a fun article, and you can get it online. You can get the magazine and read the article online. Tell you what, I'll make that an article. I'll make that one of the posts in the newsletter this coming week. I'll tell you where you can find that magazine and look for it or download a copy in PDF form for yourself. As I say, I am interviewed in there, and two of the drawings from this show are in the magazine to go along with the article, um, which marks the first time in actually quite a long while that any of my stuff has been uh, in print outside of, say, a game product, and in particular, a game product that I had some part in publishing. It's funny. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not funny. But the article is. It's about how um, fan art is a way that many artists and professional and amateur like to show their appreciation. Kind of like this show, showing my appreciation and celebrating the history of tabletop RPGs and the hobby of tabletop role playing games or tabletop role playing. Uh, but part of the problem, and one of the things I was interviewed about, was the copyright question that goes along with it, and uh, it's tough. It's tough, right? The difference between what is legal and in what ought to be permissible, or I guess the difference between legal and permissible, and how much it just kind of depends on the copyright owner. Very often, the company that is the copyright controller. What is allowed and what isn't. And particularly if you go to any kind of convention, the number of pieces of unlicensed fan art you see, the question of what is good for the not just the fan base, but the growth of the popularity of a thing, and what is protected and how protected legally is it's not unclear, but it's the kind of thing that and the law is pretty clear. The copyright owner and the trademark owner has the right to say who can and can't use their material. But the fans want to celebrate the thing, not because they love it, and they want to share it with each other because they love it. And, the general feeling is they should be allowed to do that. I'm not against that. I absolutely agree with that. But I also understand that from a legal perspective, the company can decide to not make that easy, or to make it particularly difficult, or to be legal pains in the neck. The guy who was interviewing was asking about doing things like T-shirts with my versions of these things on it, and why I hadn't explored that. And my answer was because I think that my answer was because I don't have the rights to do that, and I think that if I do that, uh, there's a very good chance that the copyright owners, the corporate copyright owner, is going to make trouble for me. And I think I think maybe my best quote in there, the most important quote for me in there, is that it doesn't matter whether or not I think I have a winnable case. Like, I think there's a very good case to be made that what I do is parody and comedy and transformative, but that having a winnable case is not what I'm afraid of. If Wizards or anyone, even if it wasn't doing Wizards, if it was, I've done drawings of products that are Kobold Press or Green Ronin, and if any of them decided they didn't like what I did and wanted to uh, file suit, they could, and then I would have to go to court to defend it. Having a it's the thing I was talking about. The quote I have is, it's not whether or not I have a winnable case. It's that if they decide to make trouble for me, I have to. I don't have the resources to fight it. I might have a winnable case, but I don't have the resources to fight and win that case. So I choose not to put myself in a position where that might come up. Having said that, I will say that I am thinking about doing more with this art, including a art book, collecting it. I think that there's a very real possibility that before the year is out, we will be talking about crowdfunding for something like that, but that is neither certain. It's not certain, and I don't know when it will be. But I'll give you that as just a little taste. Also, a reason, if you really think that's a good idea and you want to see it, well, now that I've said it out loud, here's your chance to tell me. In comments in the video, or afterwards, or telling your friends and telling them. The more people who are interested and active in it, the higher the likelihood that it's going to happen. Because any project like that, of course, need to have a bunch of people who are willing to buy into it, metaphorically and literally. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. As Chris Andrew says, reading is fundamental, but drawing is fun, says Michael. And the comic book industry has long looked aside at freelance artists selling pieces of their own IP. The comic book industry actually is a interesting case in point. They have waffled over the years. There have been times when the comic book industry has been very strong about shutting down fan art. I think that they, over the years, as they saw how strong the fan base was, and how much riling them up worked against them, they've changed their tune on a number of occasions. And more or less have decided that they're okay as long as it's clear that it's fan art. They're okay with that. But you have once every time that becomes okay, then you have people uh, uh, who who decide to push that envelope and try to do more things to make a little more money. And the more money gets involved, the more likely the publishing company is going to step back and say, "Oh no, no, you can't make that much money off our property. You can make a little, not a lot." Um, Michael says he's talking about things that are usually one of a kind or very limited prints. Usually, but go to any con, and yes, the more it feels like it's an original piece of art or a very limited print run of art, the more likely the comic companies are to let it go. Um, but you also get these large vendors who have giant walls of prints, and although it's limited in that it's not for sale in a store, it's unlimited in that once they sell the ones they have, they're going to print more. So now this the what Daniel Horne here has done for the particularly the whatever this, I think it's supposed to be a chainmail, a rotting chainmail shirt, but it looks like it's kind of fur. There's an interpretation I had to make because I'm certainly not going to get that texture, that feeling. So I've decided to make it a chainmail shirt, a rotting and tearing chainmail shirt that the skeletal creature is wearing. Those are the kinds of effects that you can put in when you're doing painting, right? You, you can't you're it's done in such a way that your brain has to put it together anyway. You're never looking at it this close. You're like, is that looks kind of like dog hair to me in a way. It looks like a curly, like a poodle hair. But when you zoom back here, it looks like it's probably chainmail. When I'm working in line drawings and for these cartoons, I don't have that kind of uncertainty. I've got to put an actual set of lines down and state my interpretation plainly. This is what it is. Um, Dale says, lawyers are expensive. Hey, Dale, thank you for joining in tonight. Glad to see you, my friend. And Michael, yes, Michael, I do. I know that the folks who are here watching this live, I'm very confident that you guys are so supportive, and you've proven that you are fans of what I do, and you want to have it for yourself. You want to support it, and you want to have some for yourself, and that I can count on um, most of you to, uh, even if you don't have the financial wherewithal to buy everything that is going on, you'll want to buy some of them, and you'll certainly support them if you don't. You'll help to tell folks that it's around and promote, help even, well, not only will you put whatever finances you can afford and want to in on it, you will help to get more finances to roll in and get the project supported. You're my friends and you're my fans, and I appreciate you for all of that. The success of any project like this really hangs on how you're able to get how much success you can have outside the people that you can count on. Whether that be friends or family or fans, there's a certain number of people you can count on. And unless you are, or until I become some kind of rock star, metaphorically, uh, the success of projects like that will depend on how appealing they'd be to the folks who aren't quite as hip to how cool I am as you guys are. I hope you can hear the self-mockery in that. Michael says it's better to make money with your own IP. Yeah, well, you know what? I'd have even less time for my own IP currently. But we'll see. This year, we'll see what this year brings. We're still very early in the year. We're in March. Still a lot of time left, and I've got some loose plans that I hope will come together into firm results. The friends you can count on aren't the ones who count. No, I wouldn't say it that way. You are the guys I can't that do count. But you are not legion. The friends you can count on are not. I don't know. So I think I've talked about before the concept of 1,000 true fans. Um, and you can the people that you can count on are the ones that count. But if you want to do big projects, until the people you can count on are legion in number, it's not that they don't count. It's that they can't carry the day. Like I can't do. Rather than talk about, let's turn around. There are cartoonists whose work I love, independent cartoonists whose work I love, and I am certainly willing to throw money down on them. And I would love for them to put together a book or a well, let's just say a book. But I know from what I do that in order for that to be viable, I'm willing to. You know what? It's a book that normally might cost $10 to make, $20 to sell, usually in the store. I'm willing to pay $50 for it because I like that guy's work so much. Yeah, I'm willing to pay $75 and have him sign it, which costs him nothing extra, gets him a little extra money, and gets me a book with a signature in it. That's great. But I also know that that's not going to be enough to make it. He's not going to be able to afford to make that book if I do that, and if 10 other people like me do that, or 50 or 100 people, so people that are now we'll come back here, right? The number of people who are my fan family, and are the people that count. But I can't. I can only do things that work at the scale of 50 to 100 people, And you don't print books, you don't do these other projects in order for those to be uh, profitable in any way. It has to have an audience bigger than the people you can count on. That isn't to say I can't do other cool things for those people, for you. And I can and do and will. But something like a book, something like a large scale poster print run, or a towel. Let's say everyone wanted a towel with one of my drawings on it. That would be a cool thing to have, in theory. Well, I certainly can't afford to do textile printing. Now, print on demand is a different, changes everything a lot. But that's another matter. And profitability comes in there too. Yeah. So anyway, the 1,000 true fans concept is the measurement of a true fan in that sense, in the sense of that article, is someone who is willing to spend $100 a year on you, the creator. Whether that's buying a book or subscribing to your Patreon or leaving tips in your tip jar, whatever. $100 a year. If you can have 1,000 people who are willing to give you $100 a year, you've got $100,000 rolling in. Now you have to make sure that that's what you're giving for that $100,000 leaves enough for you to live. But that's $100,000. You can do a lot there. You could have a living doing that. That's the idea of the 1,000 true fans. If you get 1,000 true fans, you've got $100,000 revenue business. And I mean, the thing is that even that theory scales, right? 100,000 is 1,000 people is a lot. It's hard to work up to that size, but you work up to that size. That isn't to say that if you have 500 true fans in that measurement of true fans, you've got $50,000 a year, and all right, that's not a full living if you're using that to pay for products and such, which you have to do, but it's a lot of one. Right? If you have 500 people who are willing to spend $200 a year, well, now you're up to the same level as 1,000 true fans. So there's a lot of permutations that go into it, but it's the idea of scaling your business based on, or building a business based on having a number of people that you can count on who want to spend X amount of money with you. So again, the folks here, the folks who come and chat every week and participate when I do a crowdfunding project and like that, have some amount of money that they want to spend with me, I am absolutely appreciative of it. And knowing a rough idea of what those numbers are gives me an idea of what I can certainly achieve. But every week I talk about doing things like leaving comments on the videos and such, because they get the videos shown to more people. And one of the reasons we want more people is to increase the number of folks who fall into that category of liking what I'm doing enough to want to be part of the projects and increase that number of true fans. The main reason I don't like the term true fans is it feels like a uh, judging the quality, the emotional quality, on what is a purely financial measurement, and that's not cool. That's certainly not how I think about um, the folks who like and interact with my materials. Um, Chris Hedges says, if it helps, I count as 3 or 4 people according to the bathroom scale. Well, you know what? I have that same problem myself. The thing is, if that meant I had 3 or 4 people's worth of money, sure. I imagine, like me, your increased volume does not come with an increased revenue or increased spending power. Oh, let's see what's going on here. I gotta remember that things. I can't just look at the lines. I have to look at my source material to remember what I'm doing here. I'm switching from those chainmail to the hard armor of the chest. Stephen Radley McFarland is here. Hello, Stephen. Glad to see you, sir. I haven't talked to you in quite a while. Most friends can count. Probability is another matter. Yeah. Well, yeah. True enough. And Joseph Wolf, thank you for saying hi, coming by and saying hi. This is one of your favorite Dragon magazine covers. One of mine too. I was talking a little earlier about how I like Daniel Horne's stuff. I was so happy when we were working on. It was toward the very end of Dragonlance Fifth Age. It was one of the last products. It was the Sylvan. No, it wasn't the Sylvan Veil. It was one of the others. God, I can't remember the name of the product. Nope. But we got a Daniel Horne cover, and I was so happy. Not that I disliked the. We had Todd Lockwood art, we had Jeff Easley art, we had a lot of really great art for the covers of the Fifth Age products, but hadn't seen a Daniel Horne piece in quite a while, and he did this really great painting, and I wish I could remember the name of the product right now. I'm sure one of you could look it up, or I could look it up later. There's I was zooming in here, looking at this character's face, and it was reminding me of this dwarf, ruddy-cheeked dwarf who's swinging an axe in that Dragonlance cover. It's looking pretty good. Holy cats, almost 50 minutes has gone by already. Time flies. That's the other thing I love drawing so much. I just could spend each and every day, just spend all day doing this. I wish I could. That's why. That's another reason why I keep trying to increase the number of, uh, well, the amount of money I make from it, the number of products, the number of assignments I have that are drawing related, because time just flies. I have a ton of fun. Well, Dragon Magazine 126 is this issue, but I'm trying to remember the name of the Dragonlance product, Dragonlance 5th Age product that we did that had the Daniel Horne cover. This is the third or fourth Dragon Magazine cover. Over in this show, when I started it, celebrating the 50th anniversary of D&D, and I was doing one image from each year, which in itself was very limiting, right? There were many years where there were, one might even say most years, when there were 2 or 3 or 4 covers that are just great, and would be great to do these kind of drawings of, and I would love to do it. But when you add Dragon Magazine into that same mix, that's an extra 12 covers a year. Add Dungeon in, and it's another 12, but up to 24 additional pieces, and they had such great covers. So many of the Dragon covers are classics, and among my favorite pieces of fantasy art. I could easily spend a year of these shows just doing Dragon Magazine homages. I don't want to. There's so many other things. I haven't done any Call of Cthulhu covers, and there's some of those that I love desperately. Again, among my favorite pieces ever. Um, I did that one Denis Bouvet chess cover, one of the famous Dragon Magazine chess covers that he did, and uh, and those are among the most famous pieces of fantasy art from the '80s that are out there. Most memorable. Everyone. I don't know anyone that doesn't love those chess pieces. Did I? Did I? Dungeon Magazine 126. I hope my title says Dragon Magazine 126, because it's definitely Dragon. Um, but my all-time favorite. I mean, one of my all-time favorite pieces, and uh, I've had cause to think about this a lot. I'm pretty sure uh, I will say my absolute favorite all-time Dragon Magazine cover is a a painting by uh, Denis Bouvet, which is titled "The Bridge of Sorrows," which has a centaur paladin or knight, centaur with armor and a helmet, and a spellcaster crossing a little bridge, and there's this. I think it's a wyvern, but it's some kind of draconic beast, dark, black, scaly, draconic beast. Uh, and lightning is blasting. I don't read through it. I think it's shooting lightning out of its mouth and shattering the bridge. I love that piece, and I and I really want to do a one of these cartoon homages for that. It hasn't come up yet. I didn't make it the choice during the initial run of the show because that was definitely during the heyday of second edition D&D. There were so many products that are more emblematic of what was going on with D&D, so that they were representative of that year. But God, I want to draw that, and I will. I think that my goal is to work that into the rotation sometime this year. It's a wyvern, says Dale. I trust you. I trust you to know, Dale. God, I love that drawing or that painting. There was a miniature box set, a little box set made with miniatures for those for that painting. I know that Denny himself has done a 3D rendering of it. You can find online. Like I say, if there are so many Dragon magazine covers that were great. I don't often like to talk about the best. Why limit yourself like that? But if someone wanted to know, if I had to say what my favorite was, my all-time favorite, that would be it. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to take a little sip here, take a slight pause. That refreshes. And continue on. All right, so when I'm doing this here, I know that when it comes time to do this snow, I'm going to want it not to be black lines. It's going to be one of the ways in a line drawing like this, particularly in this digital age, you can take to soften the effect of something and try to get that snowy, powdery feeling is to just change the color of the line. Now, this is a line drawing, just in any kind of comic book sense. Like everything's got to be a black line. But no longer true. You can now soften the lines. And I do that. You'll see that on a lot of my drawings where I take the line drawing I've done and change the color of the line from black to a gray or a brown, a sepia color or a blue color. And that helps to change the perceived weight and distance. Take something out of being the focus. And here I'm think I'm certainly going to be using some kind of blue or blue gray line to draw the snow. So I'm just thinking about what I want to do here. I think in order to make that easier, I'm going to draw that snow on its own layer, and then I can mess around with it without affecting the lines that I've just spent so much time working on the giant skeleton. But right now I'm keeping our characters, our main characters, is Archer and the giant skeleton all on one layer. Blech. I'm looking at her face and the face I've drawn. I think it's I don't know. The one in the painting, such a Daniel Horne character, and the one in the drawing, such a Stan character. I'm not sure that I've done the best job of interpreting what he's done as much as putting my character in there. Because I mean, if I was going to get that mouth, I don't even know that I could do that. That mouth, that and the feeling, the weight of the cheek that he does. That's him. That's him. And I think that I'm part of this whole project is me interpreting these things and putting them into my style. And part of that is me learning to do a little bit or trying things I wouldn't have done otherwise based on what these master painters have done, and part of it is me taking what they've done and putting it into my style. And the question sometimes is when which is the appropriate step to take in a given instance. Should I be trying to bend my style to better suit the original, or should I be bending the original to make it fit in my drawing? Because in the end, I want this to be clearly a Stan drawing. This would be my drawing. Dale says Bridge of Sorrows was on Dragon 92. I believe the internet can be trusted on that. I've looked that up several times. I believe that is correct. Dragon Magazine number 92. If you don't know the image we've been talking about, you can look it up there. Thank you, Dale. All right, let's zoom back out. that thing that I was talking about of my style and the original artist style is one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to do uh, these kinds of uh, homage drawings for things that were originally closer to, or well, either were cartoons or were closer to cartoons. Doing a cartoon homage to something that's already a cartoon is um, a weirder line to walk. I don't know that it's harder, but I think what it is certainly more obvious when you know what I'm just not doing what the original guy did. I'm doing what I do because you're not switching the basic uh, stylistic medium. That's a weird phrase that doesn't really mean anything. Uh, right, this original thing here is a painting, and it's a mostly realistic style. Mine is a cartoon, and it's a comic, a humorous style. And so those are two of the vectors that I'm making changes on. Hmm. It's a little bit of depth challenge here. I got to figure out what's happening at what layer. David Shepard, you're not late. You're here just in time. You're here when you meant to be. Michael says that he apologizes because his research department took the night off to fold laundry. You know what? That's more important. That's real life. My research department took the night off to fold laundry on Sunday. And one of the things I like so much about working digitally is this ability to just draw what I need to draw and then know that I can lift it out easily. This doing something like this bow um, in a painting, you kind of have that because it's so opaque that when you paint over it, it covers what was there. But in a line drawing like this, if I want these lines to cross, if I'm doing a physical drawing, I have to draw, I have to try to not draw what I don't want there, and yet have the lines still look like they function as single units, right? I drew what happens in this space here. Oh, come on! What happens in this space here? I drew that. I had to erase out the lines there because I want this part to look like it works seamlessly. It works like that. When you're working in physical media, sometimes you just have to not draw part of those lines and yet still make them feel like they were drawn as a single piece. It's one of the challenges of working in physical media. Working in digital media just creates the ability to take something out without having to destroy anything physically. Or another thing that will be done to do that is use whiteout, cover it up. But then if you don't cover it up correctly, you still got to draw on top of the whiteout again, and you wind up having to draw this thing or sections of this thing over and over in order to create the illusion you want. And it's just a bigger pain in the butt. Let's see. Oh, David says he forgot that. Yes, David from the from the British Isles. They do not have uh, the daylight savings time that we do. They don't partake in that, and so you think it's hard for us here in the States to deal with the change in hours change. The rest of the world, nothing changes. Suddenly they have to remember, oh yes, those Yanks, they've changed their clocks. And we just expect everyone else to deal with it because it's what we did. They should know. We're what matters. Ugh. I feel myself getting ready to go into a rage about some of the American exceptionalism. I will resist that urge right now, but being a little conscious of that is something I think every American ought to be mindful of. And there's nothing like having lived anywhere abroad, anywhere that's not in the States, for even a year or two, or just 6 months. I would say a year or two would be better, but there's nothing like that to help bring home to people the Americans who we as a people tend to be pretty cocksure of our own importance and how everything revolves around us. And it's kind of a human nature thing, but just uh, culturally, the U.S. is a little full of itself. Let's come on, we're a little full of ourselves, um, and there's and thinking about how important we are and how everyone must know X, or this is just how it is because it's here and because the U.S. covers such a large area, and we can see how it's true over such a large area. These things are understood and true over such a large area. Um, we we project that onto the rest of the world. There's nothing like living overseas for a while and finding out how quickly and easily you grow out of touch with what's going on back in the States. To find out that you don't know you don't know what X, Y, and Z. Your friends will say, "Well, this blah thing that you don't know about," and you realize it's not important to the rest of the world. Just because it's so dang important to us here in the States doesn't mean the rest of the world knows about it or it impacts on their day in any way. Our daylight savings time is a very good example of that, is really all I'm saying here. Most of the rest of the world doesn't do that. And even though we are complaining about it here and we're trying to change it, we don't have the same kind of, even we don't have the same kind of, what the hell are you talking about for it that the rest of the world does. The bowstring is on the wrong side of the archer's wrist. Why, so it is. Oh dear. Well, again, good thing here, digitally, I can just fix that and look at that. It's on the correct side of the wrist now. That happened in another drawing when I was doing the Gen Con cover piece a few weeks ago, a month or two ago, and there were some geometric patterns, and I had a similar thing happen where I put the lines, I erased the wrong lines and created not quite an Escher-esque confusion in what was over what. But again, if I was doing this physically, that would have been a big pain in the patoot to fix. And here, all it takes is David and Dale teaming up to say to me, "Hey, mistake," and I can just switch it like that, and it works. Yep, you were right. It should have been under her wrist the whole time. And lo and behold, now it is. Yeah, I'm looking here, zoomed in, and I got that what seems to be a cinch on her wrist guard. I got that confused with what the string was when I was drawing here, and so made a mistake. All right. So, having finished the two characters on one layer, right, I can now turn that on and off. I'm going to make a new layer over this one, and I'm gonna continue to draw in black line, but this is the snow layer, so it's going to get changed. To a different color when we're done. I just don't know for sure what that color is going to be, and I don't want to worry about it right now. The weird thing for me, so I was thinking about whether or not to do this in one or two layers, because for the giant, clearly the snow lines are something I would want to do over the 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 character itself. But for the archer, I'd kind of want to do, particularly the snow that's being puffed up by the giant rising, by the skeleton rising. I might want to do that under her layer, and you know, I mean, I really could. There's no reason why I couldn't just make many multiple layers, and a lot of digital artists do. I like to keep things a little simpler when possible. I don't really gain that much out of creating that level of detail. It's so, some significant amount of extra work for not as much gain. So I'm just going to keep it one layer. If I have to later on, I can go back and fix that too. I could very easily, and how as I talk about it, I'm thinking maybe I will um, undo that. Uh, if I so right now the giant and the archer are on one layer, but if I turn off the snow for a second, I can grab the archer, just the archer. So if I draw this little, no, come on, stop that. Draw this little dotted line just around her, and I can pull this down, and I'm gonna cut and paste. Now there's just, see that from selection layer, that's her. She's on her own layer, and the giant is on its own layer. And now if I put her above the snow, this snow layer that I'm working on here goes below her, above the giant and below the um, the archer. So I'm going to turn her off for a second. Now I can draw these snow banks completely. And although they won't get seen, I can make them kind of like what I was talking about with the lines of the bow. By doing this, I can draw them and they'll be blocked out by what's above them. But I can draw the whole thing completely. I do this a lot particularly with characters that are only partially seen in a drawing. I will draw them completely. Also backgrounds. In fact, I'll show you some examples of this in a minute. I'll go and open a couple of other drawings. I think you've probably seen it before. I was making a point of it with the Fantasy Age drawing a couple of episodes ago. But I can draw the whole thing even if it's not seen, and that offers a couple of different advantages for me. One is that it's easier to draw for just all the reasons I've been talking about before. When I don't have to worry about being very careful about what is and isn't going to show in the final drawing. The second thing is, if I draw it completely and I'm happy with how the drawing works on its own, regardless of layer, then I can move things around in the end if things aren't lining up. And I did this with the Dragonlance, the most recent Dragons of War thing that I finished. Because I drew the characters and the castle as a whole layer, in the end, when I just wanted to shift things around a little. I could rearrange the pieces like they are cut out puzzle pieces or color forms, and adjust how they're laying on top of each other. See, now here, done that. I'm going to have a second snow layer. Wow, I am making this more complicated, which is going to be behind the giant, which represents these billowy clouds, which are behind him. And I can draw them out like this. Again, never going to be seen, but I've got to, if I do it as a complete piece, it just makes me happier. There we go. It gives me more freedom to make adjustments later on and to color more easily and freely. And let's turn on the thing. Now, the one thing, so I'm looking at her ankles in the snow. There's not really any snow effect going around her. These are lines here. And when all is said and done, I'm going to recolor just these lines. So on what is right now her layer. Again, if I turn it off, right? Some of these lines down around her feet, I'm going to recolor those, whatever the color is that I'm using for the snow lines. So that line will have mostly black lines, but a few blue lines. And then he said, behind all that, turn those off. Behind all that, I'm creating one new layer to draw this background, this very background of the mountains and what we see in the distance. Little forest over here. And the mountain, and those are also certainly going to wind up being a color other than black, so that they will fade into the distance. But for the ease of drawing it, I'm going to draw it in black and make those changes later. But again, I'm also going to draw the whole of this backdrop, even though it won't be seen. And the mountains. When we zoom in, we can see that even Daniel put a lot of thought into lots of ridges in those mountains. Look at the whole piece. It's easy to not see that. The question for Daniel Horne and for me is, how much detail do I need to put in so it creates the illusion of more detail when it's seen at a distance? I'm going to zoom in here, and there's not a lot. I mean, if he was painting, if this was supposed to be seen this close, this important, there would be a lot more detail in those trees and the craggy mountain shapes. How much is enough so that when it's reduced to the size we're looking at it, will the viewer's brain convert it over? Chris Andrews says, what do you guys think the skeleton says to the female warrior? He says, he thinks it says, I know something you don't know. I'm not left-handed. Michael says he likes my mountains. Thank you very much. I've created my own particular style of drawing, of quick referencing cartoony mountains in the background. again, I have these little parallel lines like Daniel's original, just to create that feeling, that hint of an idea that there are ridges and little valleys and uh, um, I want to say rivulets, and that's not the word I'm trying to come up with, but ravines along the side of this hill, this mountain. There we go. You see that there's the other thing is that we've got the sky with the clouds. Now I could come in here and start putting cloud effects in. I think I'm gonna wait and do that entirely with color. It's possible I may change my mind and want to come back and do exactly that. Do some little cloud drawings, but I don't think so. I don't think I even changing the color line. I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to leave it all to color. All right. So if I turn these lines back on again, we can see that I've got the basic line work done. And this is the kind of thing that I did this with the Dragons of War cover. By dropping some white in, I can turn this into a coloring book style page, and I will do that and make that available to the people who subscribe to the Substack or are members of my Patreon community. So if you want to get a coloring page of this, those are two places you can do that, and won't cost you anything. I mean, it can. I certainly appreciate it. We're talking about the 1,000 true fans and the getting $100 a year out of people. Doing that a little bit at a time with subscriptions works well too. But I try and make most of the stuff available for the free subscription level. Like I don't make everything available to just anyone that shows up. You've got to be a subscriber. You got to get involved in the community somehow. You don't necessarily have to become involved with money. I'll get that from you later. Anyway, yeah. So I'll draw. Maybe in fact, I'll do that now. But before I do that, escarpments. Oh, that's a good word. I'm sorry, I'm looking at what's being said, and escarpments make people scarper. Chris Andrews says something very flattering. I was looking at it. He says that this whole project is a great way to relive and highlight the legendary painters, and you know what? That really is a big part of why I like doing it, or what inspired me to do it, is this chance to put a focus on some of this art, which has meant so much to me. Of course, it's also to put a spotlight on my art and how wonderful it is, and why people should appreciate it. But you know that. All right. So what I wanted to do here was pop back to, let's look at the Dragons at War that just recently finished. If you are a member of my Patreon community, you got to see this today. I released this as an update for Patreon. If you're a member of the Substack for this community, for this show, you got to see it last week or the week before. So you got to see it a week or more ago. Yeah, the couple of things that I've been talking about tonight that I want to show here. One is this. Look here how I use a different, the dragon and Sturm, the human character, and the foreground is inked in black. You can see, but if you look, the One of the ways that I make the tower feel further back is that although I drew it in black, when I was doing the coloring, I changed the color to a gray related to the gray of the stone, but it's a lighter color, so it feels further away. And the explosion, I just made a color part of the explosion, so it doesn't feel as solid. It's still a line drawing, right? I'm doing a line drawing. It's got to be a line. But by doing it this way, it doesn't feel as solid as either the characters or the tower. It feels like part of the light. David asks, is that Kitiara about to kill Sturm? That's exactly what's going on there, my friend. But also, we see here in the background, when I did the sketches, I did all these layers in lines, and rather than draw it out so that there's an outline, I took, like I was talking about the clouds in that other drawing, in the drawing I've been working on today, I just did it by applying the colors without an outline line. And it's still line drawing, kind of, but without a border line, it becomes color only, and that's how I created that and the use of a editing effect called Gaussian blur. Right. So, but one of the things I wanted to show you is that I put all these things on layers. You can see here, I don't know, hopefully you can read the things. I've grouped these things. So like all the shrapnel is on a layer. I can turn it on and turn it off. Right? You can take the shrapnel out, and if I wanted to, I could move it around. I could, in fact, towards the end of this process, I did go and grab individual pieces of the shrapnel and move them so they were where I wanted them to be. And because underneath that shrapnel, I had drawn the characters completely, I was able to move the shrapnel and not have to do anything new. In a traditional media piece, in order to do this, anywhere where that shrapnel is covering, there would be nothing underneath it, because it's a single board or canvas. But working digitally, I could do that too, but I don't. I'd finished drawing the whole of everything, and that allowed me to just pick up and move individual pieces of the shrapnel. Likewise, the characters and the foreground all go together. When I was working on them, I could still move them around. I think in the end, I grabbed the Sturm and the foreground wall and moved it a little further down and to the right than where it was when I originally drew it, so that the sword would cross over the door a little better, and the relationship to the dragon was a little more where I wanted it to be. So I could turn those off, and you can see I drew that whole part of the tower that's covered down there. I drew the whole thing anyway. Why? Because the way things worked out, I might want to shift it up or down or a little to the side, which would change how much was revealed. If I draw the whole thing, it only has a little bit of extra work for me at the time, but allows a lot more opportunity for adjusting after the fact, adjusting towards the end. To turn off the explosion, you could say, okay, I didn't do it under the explosion. There was a point where I said, no matter what I do, I want the explosion's going to be covering. So there's a little bit that's drawn further than what you can see, but not all the way. Which, having turned off the dragon, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense. There's some areas back there where you probably should be able to see bits of the tower, but the dragon covers that up. so I didn't worry about it. Anyway, that's what I was talking about. I thought it'd be fun to show you those this case in point. Um, yes. So I finished that. Let's come back here. Oh, let's see what's going on in the chat. Shrapnel adds so much to that piece. Yeah, I mean it does. You know, having well, I guess I'll go back here again. The other thing I did with the shrapnel, if you'll notice, I made the the black lines thicker so that it feels closer. That's another one of those little. That's part of the line drawing trick of learning to draw things at distances. Things that are closer to you will have you make with heavier outlines so that they feel closer, and your eye accepts that things here have lines around them, and that the idea is that as they get further away, you know that as something gets further away, it gets smaller, and lines that are thick at this distance will seem the same, won't change thickness, but they'll seem thinner going back. So that if the things that are up close have a thicker line, then the things in the midground have a thinner line around them. It creates the illusion of depth. There's something very Simpsons about the unfinished tower. Okay. I accept and appreciate that comment. Yeah. All right, let's go back here. Closing in on 8 o'clock. But, all right, so what I want to do here is, having created all these layers, now you can see through everything. Once I start adding colors in to create the same kind of thing that we had in that Dragons of War piece. When you color something, it will block what's behind it. But right now, there's no color in anything. In order to create a coloring page, we do want that blocking. We want everything to block what is behind it. So, I will I'm going to turn off. How do I want to do this? Tell you what I'm thinking about is that I'm thinking about the video that's going to be created at the end of this drawing. All right. First of all, I'm going to turn off the lines layer, the sketch layer entirely. And then I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, unlike a lot of drawings, I don't have to block out a lot. All right, so I'm going to create a new layer. And it's going to be underneath the archer. So if we can see, if I draw a line, you can still see the archer, but it blocks what's beneath the archer. And I want to find all the places where I can see something through the archer that I don't want to see. I'm going to color it in. Now, in a busier piece, I would just take the entire archer's body and trace it out. And fill that with the color. And then what I'm going to do is turn that color white, so that you just can't see through the archer anymore. Right? Let's do it that way anyway. And then I'm going to do the same thing underneath the giant. And fill that in. Now, all the rest of this doesn't matter. There's absolutely nothing behind the giant. No, I put those on the wrong. Put that on the wrong layer, didn't I? I did. Oh, undo that. Create a new layer to do that on. And each layer, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's going to block everything behind it. And then when I turn all that white, it's going to... Is that enough? No, it's not enough. There we go. I think that actually is it. So now if I turn both of these white, I take the white and I fill in that with white. I go to this layer and I fill that in with white. So now we have a coloring page. Everything looks solid. You get to do the coloring on that. Right? Oh, just a little extra. Hold on. There. I want to add that. That ought to do it. Here. I think that's everything. Now you see, right now I see a weird tangent that I didn't intend. Where the bow, you see the tip of the bow, or the curve of the end of the bow is lining up with that ravine to create one of those weird tangents I was talking about. I don't want that. What am I going to do about that? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the entire layer with the mountain, and I'm going to move it just a smidge over that way. And now that tangent is gone. Again, this is what I get for, this is a bonus I get by drawing the whole of it. Instead of having to redraw something, I can just move it a little and get the adjustment I need. Saves me from having to plan this carefully. I guess it makes for sloppy artistry. Unintangible. Does anyone remember Sniglets? I remember Sniglets. I loved Sniglets. All right, so then we've got ourselves a coloring page. I'm looking at some of this. I think I want to put a little bit of extra, line work on here. This is something I do on the Thursday night show where after I turn off the sketch layer, I look and see where does it just need a little bit of extra line work to make things pop. And that's the stage I'm at right now with this. Just a few extra lines here and there. To help make things feel complete. I think she needs a little bit of work too, but that's going to be on a different layer. Alright, we'll go to her layer now. Her lines layer, and we'll add a little bit of the same kind of thing. Like so. Just looking at it, deciding where a few more of those lines need to go. Like I was saying, his favorite sniglet was Exacuglage? To wheel around the office by rolling around on your office chair without getting up, usually backward. Exacuglage. Alright. My favorite sniglet was a paired sniglets that meant the same thing. And they were words for the little crusty things that form in the corner of your eye. And I guess one was depending on viscosity. If they are the crusty little things, the little things you wake up in the morning and they're hard, then they are nocturnuggets. They are the pieces of material that form in the corners of your eye while you're sleeping. Nocturnuggets. But if it's just kind of during the day and you find one of them and they're a little more viscous, then it's Optigoop. Execuglide? Oh, Execuglide is probably it, yeah. Yep. Good call, Dale, and thank you for confirming, Michael, in chat. Execuglide. That makes much more sense. I was trying to work it into a single flowing word. Execuglide's pretty good. I'm going to stick with Nocturnuggets as my favorite. Nocturnuggets and Optigoop. I got some Optigoop. All right. So here's the other thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to stick a stand on this, temporarily at least, so that I can use it as a coloring page, and I'll give that its own layer. Maybe I should put that on the other side. All right. And now we have a finished coloring page, which I will make available next week for folks who are members of the uh, Substack. And I think Substack will get it first, and then it'll go out to people in my Patreon community. But there we go. I think that's all I'm going to do for tonight. We've been going for a couple of hours. That was fun. Um, but we've got ourselves a finished line drawing. Everything's all done. We've got a finished coloring page, which I can give away, and then I can hopefully find some time in the coming week. Looking at my calendar and thinking it's probably not going to happen this week, but hopefully in the next 10 days or 2 weeks, I can find some time and do the coloring, and then we'll have another finished piece. The arrowhead is still green. Is the arrowhead still? It is. Huh. I'd have noticed that eventually, but thank you, Dale. Let's come back down here and make that arrowhead white. Boop. Good catch. Let's say editors are around to make me look better. Maybe she's supposed to be Green Arrow. Oh, good. I'd have worked with that headcanon, David. That works for me. All right, I'm gonna come over here, and I'm gonna say thank you, fine folks, for hanging out with me. It's been fun chatting with you. It's been fun doing the drawing and showing you a little bit of behind the curtain stuff. I have been talking a fair bit about the newsletter, the 50 Years in the Dungeon .substack.com newsletter. If you join up, that's where you'll get. That will definitely be the first place where you get that coloring page that you can download and use for your own purposes, for your fun. Also, I've also talked about my Patreon, patreon.com/StanX, where you can join the community of my fine friends and fans. Help to become one of my 1,000 true fans. Join the troops. Join the troops early. And there's free levels there too. Of course, as with all things, if you're on the paying levels, you get little bonuses, you get little extras that you don't get. I try and give something nice and as a thank you to the folks who are putting money in my pocket and food on my table, roof over my head, Hawaiian shirts on my back. Yes, but let's say there are also free levels for the Patreon, and the Substack is mostly free. But again, the way to show support, the way to show encouragement, the way to help it so that I will do more of the things you're enjoying, is to join, to do what you can financially. Join in a little here, a little there, a little sugar here, a little cookie there. Yes, I'll be back, as I said, next week. I will be starting a brand new drawing. I'm going to be doing the drawing, the blue pencil sketch, nothing up to blue pencil sketch, on the drawing that I had planned for the Gene Raby tribute show, and didn't work out because of technical difficulties. So I'll be doing drawing. Maybe, I don't know, Dale, maybe you want to come on and chat. Maybe I'll reach out to some of the other sometimes forever guests that we have here on the show who just want to hang out and chat a bit rather than doing an interview. Beyond that, I don't have plans. I don't know what the schedule is for the show coming up in late March and into April, but I've started reaching out to people for scheduling new guests coming up. So hopefully that'll all fall into place sometime soon. I will also be back tomorrow night with a new episode of Random Encounters. It will be an Oscars themed show since the Academy Awards are this coming Sunday. We will be doing an Oscars themed, third annual Oscars themed Random Encounters episode. So tune in tomorrow night for some improv cartooning with a D&D and Hollywood mashup. Thank you all for being here. Again, thank you. And if you want to help out, the very first way, no money, no cost, just a little bit of your time way you can help out, is to give this video a thumbs up or a heart or a like, whatever it is on the platform you're watching. And after we finish the live video, take a minute or two and leave a comment. Leave a comment in the on the platform. That helps show whatever that platform is that this is a program, this is a channel that people like to interact with, that people are enjoying, and you want to be part of, and that it's fun, and that other people might want to be there, and it will increase the number of people that they introduce it to, and hopefully introduce a number of people who come and have a good time with us. So, thank you again, Michael and David and Dale, and Stephen was here earlier. Who else was here earlier? Chris Andrew is here now. Yes, all sorts of folks. Joseph Wolf was here for a while. Steve Sullivan was here for a while. So many good friends hanging out with me. How am I so blessed? Thank you all, people. I appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow night, or next week, or sometime soon. Until then, take care.